The Bank of Singapore is looking to expand its family office business to raise its challenge to the likes of UBS and Credit Suisse, who have long dominated this particular space. Now, Singapore family offices had average assets under management of $857 million last year, nearly double the Asia-Pac average, according to a UBS Camden report. Let's discuss that with CEO Bahren Shaari. Good to have you with us, Bahren. Always good to have you. Before I get to family offices, Sanford Bernstein came out with a report recently stating that Singapore banks as a whole are poised to do more acquisitions because they've built their buffers. So for you, any acquisition plans?
We always look at opportunities. If it fits into our growth strategy, I think that's very important to make sure there's a right fit and it's aligned to what we want to achieve in growing our business. But our focus is really more on growing our organic business right now, because there's something that we see a lot of opportunities to still grow it to far greater extent than what we have seen in the past.
But in terms of acquisition opportunities, which markets would make sense for you? What would you be interested in?
I think the key markets that we are operating now, so North Asia, Middle East. So we have seen these are the two markets, two regions with the highest growth over the last few years, and we expect it to continue. As you know, the Asian wealth has grown by about 9.9%. It's expected to continue to grow by about 9.9% and about 9.5% in 2016.
You know, when you take a look at banks like Julius Baer, it's partnered with the likes of Thailand Siam Commercial Bank. Is that something you may want to consider?
We are looking at onshore presence, where OCBC has an onshore franchise, like in Taiwan. We'll be setting up a unit in Taiwan to work with OCBC. Now we're in the process of getting the necessary approval. So that's one example of what we're going to do in each of the big onshore market, where the market is well developed. There's investment opportunities and where the wealth is still growing.
Hi, Bahren. This is David in Hong Kong. So you talked about organic growth. I understand you have more than 430 relationship managers. Can you give us a sense of, in terms of the headcount that you're looking to increase? Of course, offsetting, people leaving aside. What's the net headcount you're looking to put in place this year?
I think we have a sufficient number of headcounts of bankers on the ground now. We don't plan to increase by a substantial number. I think the focus is really to grow the AUM for each of these bankers. I think with technology supporting the bankers in their relationship activities, I think we definitely can increase each banker asset under management to at least 500 million per bankers.
Now, speaking of, I guess, staff here, pay inequality in the banking sector has really come to light as a contentious issue. We were just hearing from HSBC some of those numbers. Would you say that gap exists between, say, women and men within your bank in terms of comp?
Well, we look at the performance of each of the employees that we have in the organization, whether they are bankers, support function, or in the technology. And we look at the market data to make sure that we pay on a competitive basis, regardless of gender. And we measure and reward people based on their outputs, based on the contribution to the growth of the organization. So I don't see any reason why there should be gap between the genders.
So just for the record and to be clear, there is no pay gap, is what you're saying, if we compare, say, apples to apples?
Yes, there should not be.
Bahren, I'm just going to jump in here. You're talking about the AUM. Sorry, David, I'm just going to jump in here. You're talking about the AUM. You grew AUM 25% last year.
That's right.
Is there any clarity you can grow AUM again this year by the same percentage?
No, I think clearly there are a couple of other external factors. One is the growth of the wealth in this region. So if the wealth continue to grow, we can expect to continue to grow our business. Second, the financial markets. If financial markets continue to deliver the performance, and then I think clients will be very actively investing. then they will support the growth, the AUM growth. So these are external factors. So we see a very good increase in the net new money as well as market performance last year. It's one of the best years that we have seen in many, many years. So clearly, we don't expect it to be continue for many years. There will be some correction and so on, but we are quite optimistic in our outlook.
Are you in the top 5 yet?
We should be, but I think although that's not what we are looking for. I think, as I said many times, our focus is really on what we can deliver to our clients. The number will take care of itself.
Earlier we mentioned family offices. What makes it a compelling business for you?
I think you see the 85% of our family billionaires in Asia, private businesses, right? So then there is a big generational shift that's going on now. And so we expect that the family is going to decide how best to transfer the wealth to the next generation. And the family office is the best way to set up a proper structure in a well-regulated environment to make sure that these assets are properly transferred to the next generation.
And Bahren, in terms of the preservation of capital, the market conditions this year are essentially seen as being more difficult in a nutshell compared to last year. What's the general mood and approach to risk you're advising your clients to take this year?
Well, I think we always encourage clients to protect what they have gained over the last few years. As mentioned, we had a great bull run for the last 8 years. So it's important to lock in some of the profit, to be cautious, to be mindful on where the risks are in their portfolios, but at the same time to remain invested because there's still a lot of opportunities. So we have moved quite a fair bit into the hedge funds as well as into private equities. These are areas that are less correlated to the market. So these are areas where we see opportunities for clients to grow their wealth.
One final question before we let you go, Bahren. Bank of Singapore is responsible for the visit of President Barack Obama. Yes. Why him and why now?
Well, clearly, we are truly excited to be able to bring him here and for him to choose Bank of Singapore as a platform for his visit to Asia, to Singapore. And clearly, he's a man who has inspired not only the people of America in the past, but as well as many young leaders and young talents to see what you can do. And based on his campaign, yes, we can. I think that was what inspired many leaders in the past, and I think still inspire many now to look up at him, and to provide guidance in terms of how we can manage the situation and what's happening in the world now.